Okay, guys, what you were looking at here is actually the simple hack that keeps me on track, even when absolute chaos takes over in my life. Have you ever had one of those days that totally throws off your productivity but was completely out of your control? Well, that was my yesterday. I ended up having a chipped tooth. And just because, shits and giggles, we threw on a little bit of car trouble too. And those two things together took up about 5 hours of my day yesterday, which was a super bummer because you may recall yesterday was the first day of Q3. And I had big plans for the first day of Q3. I have big plans for Q3. I have big plans for the last 6 months of this year. And they started with yesterday. But, lose 5 hours in your day of work hours when it's office hours, but you have to be somewhere else because it's also their office hours, it kind of messes with you. One of those things that I had planned on starting yesterday, because, day one, Q3, was to do a 7-day how to set up your first week of Q3 with these 7 basic principles that I teach all of my clients that first week we're working together so that I know they're getting the most out of our time together. We're setting this solid foundation for them to build everything else on so that they have that efficiency and smoothness in their productivity, and we can start eliminating distractions for them. So big goals yesterday. Wanted to start the 7-day series. Didn't happen because, tooth broken, car broken, craziness. But what I just showed you a second ago is how I was able to redeem today, catch everything up, and not end up feeling already behind on day 2 of Q3. So since I do not believe in letting unexpected emergencies mess up well-laid plans, I figured I'd roll day 1 and day 2 together of the tips I was going to share with you so that we can stay on track. So today, I'm going to share with you the first 2 tips that I would suggest you do in this first week of Q3 if you want the second half of this year to be over the top phenomenal. Like with my clients, it's like 5x results based on what they were doing before. Once we get this foundation in place, and of course, add more steps on it, but these are the foundational things they have to have in place first. So first, do these. Since we're rolling 2 days tips into one day, let me kind of distinguish these first steps. So the first one is I want you to set up a strategic shutdown ritual every single work night. A strategic shutdown ritual, super important. The second step is actually about leveraging your brain's natural biology to help you drop into really deep focus, like creative genius, problem solving, first thing in the morning. So step 1 is that strategic shutdown. I don't know why that's so hard to say tonight. And the second one is to set up your brain to be able to work with you instead of against you in your most important, hardest projects to complete. So first things first, most people, I'm going to guess you would say this is true of you. It absolutely used to be true of me until I learned the neurobiology of why this is so important to do it this way. Most people just shut down at the end of the day, right? They don't set anything up for the next day. They just kind of, I'm exhausted, I'm done, shut the door. Which means the next day they just start very scattered and reactive, which is not the way you want to start your day. You want to start your day focused and intentional. So here are the steps. This will take less than 15 minutes at the end of every work day for you to set up. But here are the steps to end the scattered and reactive way to start your day and instead shift your brain to work with you so that you're focused and able to just isolate what you need to be doing and get rid of the distractions. Okay, so step 1, this is going to take you maybe 5 minutes. It's just a reflective thing. This is super important if you want to improve in any area of your life. So I would suggest ask yourself these types of questions about any area you want to improve. But the first thing is to ask yourself, what worked really well for today? Like when I think about today, what was my win and what supported that win, right? What things took place that helped me have that win? And then the second deeper question is, how can I set up tomorrow? What do I need to protect? What do I need to make sure is in place so that tomorrow I can duplicate that win? Super important. Recognize the win. How can I duplicate the win? Obviously, it might be in a completely different area in your business, but it is the winning objectives and activities that helped you cross the finish line and feel good about the day. Second part is sometimes hard to be honest with yourself about, but be honest. The more honest you are, the better you're going to get at this. The more rapid your efficiency and productivity is going to excel. So the next question is, what got in the way of my focus? Like, how did I get distracted? What were the things I could control in those distractions? How are some ways that I can actually make tomorrow better? Like, what were those stumbling blocks that happened today that distracted me? And how can I fix that for tomorrow so that there's not that same level of distraction? How can I help my focus tomorrow based on what happened today? Now, when you answer these questions, you want to put in place whatever strategy you came up with. Well, I know because I did X, Y, and Z, it worked. And so I want to make sure that tomorrow I do these things to make sure X, Y, and Z are still able to be in place. Like, don't accidentally fall into productivity. Instead, purposely, intentionally set your day up for it. And then with your honest assessment, what things did I allow to break my focus? What excuses did I use for reasons of why I wasn't using a long focused time block? What things could I control better so that I could have greater focus for longer periods of time? I go into deep detail for each client on what those things are, but just brainstorm those things for yourself and think of some very simple things that you could put into place for tomorrow that will allow you to feel more in control and support the things that worked really well. The last one I think is overlooked far too much. Matter of fact, the majority of my clients, and I only work with high performers who are doing really well in their careers. So these are people who are already getting a lot out of their life and just want to take it to the next level. But the majority of people don't think of this. And that is to ask yourself, what, if I was to reflect on my day, could I say were the most efficient parts of my productivity patterns? What I mean by that is, did I feel like after I ate, I was more sluggish, or after I ate, I was more productive? Did I feel like when I was in a dim room with earphones on, so everything was blacked out, I was laser focused? Or did I feel like when I went outside on the patio and worked out there, I was able to focus? Everybody's a little bit different. So if you start to recognize your own patterns of productivity, you can start to dial in your own personal recipe. We all are going to use, we all have, the neuroscience of things that are going to be super helpful, but each person is so individual that it's super helpful to recognize your own patterns and start using them for you and for your good. Okay, so here's part 2 of this 15-minute shutdown ritual. This is going to be maybe 5 to 6 minutes. So let's say minutes 6 to 12, somewhere around there. Okay. So the first thing is you're going to ask yourself, okay, thinking of tomorrow, what is my biggest priority for the day to keep myself aligned with my end of week and end of month objectives, right? Now, I'm going to tell you pick at least one, but a lot of people can pick 3. So you do whichever is best for you. If I'm working with a client, we determine what that is and I help them break that down. But you need to have at least one priority that's going to keep you in line with your end of week and end of month objectives. Up to 3, but don't go more than 3. That's too overwhelming for the brain. Now you're going to break this priority into microscopic, like not this big, not this big, but like teeny tiny little tasks. The reason it's important to break it into tiny tasks is because the smaller these tasks are, the more easily your brain can grab a hold of it, gobble it up, and go do it. The less overwhelm, the less procrastination, the less we allow distraction, but also the more quick little dopamine hits that we get that will pull us along the motivation train. Okay, so we don't want to try to find motivation to get us to do the work. Instead, what we want to do is feed motivation because the way we're setting up our systems for the work and creating these little tiny microscopic tasks that are part of the bigger priority that you have for the day. That's part of the bigger priority that you have for the week, which is part of the bigger priority that you have for the month. Breaking them down will help you really fuel your brain for the best focused work you can do. So let me give you an example of what I mean. It's really common for a client to first be like, yeah, my first block of time, I'm going to write my presentation. Awesome. Write my presentation. And I don't care if you wrote 1,000 of them. I've definitely wrote 1,000 presentations in my lifetime because of the amount of that kind of position I've been in since I was 28. Okay. But that is still a huge task. So if you say instead, come up with the 3 things that I feel that will be an objection. Find answers to why my product is going to be a solution for that. And then have a call to action that I feel will compel this particular client based on what I know they have expressed to me in the past is an issue for them. Having those broke down as tiny little tasks and then given a specific time in your calendar to do them will help your brain have that as fuel for motivation instead of overwhelm that keeps you frozen and in procrastination. So now when you're thinking about those little tiny microscopic tasks, ask yourself, what do I need to have in place to effortlessly do these things? So what tools do I need to have available? Are there reports I need to have pulled up? Is there somebody in the office that I need to have spoken with to get some information or permission or like whatever your protocols are in your office that you would need to have to get these things accomplished? Make sure you've already asked yourself what those are and made sure that they're facilitated so that you're not stuck tomorrow waiting for somebody to do something and your project is now on hold. When you wanted to have the project done at 3:00, but they are still doing something else and you won't have answers back from them until tomorrow at 3:00. Make sure that you've been preemptive in that and have the information you need, the tools you need, the files you need, etc., etc., etc. at hand for tomorrow when you sit down for this flow block. Okay, so now we've got you completely set up. We know that the minute your butt hits the chair tomorrow, you're going to know exactly what you need to do. You're going to have the tools in place and you're going to be able to execute just immediately. That really helps us get rid of the overwhelm, and the overwhelm is oftentimes what creates the procrastination loop that we have. So this is already setting you up for success, but when we dovetail this with step number 2, now we go from productive to 5x level productivity in the first 90 minutes of your day. So you want to do this next part to set yourself up for that 5x level. This is going to actually align you with your biochemistry so that you're able to work with the way that your brain works instead of always struggling and fighting against it, which is oftentimes one of the biggest problems that we have when we're dealing with procrastination, overwhelm, distraction, frustration, self-sabotage. All those things are generally because we don't know how to align ourselves with our biology. And so this next step can really help you take that alignment to the next level. And that's why it makes such a big difference for my clients when they put this into effect. Okay, so if you're going to add this second step into your day, if it's possible for you, and I'll explain to you in a minute why for some people it might not be possible, and there's going to be a slight alteration that you would need to do if it's not possible. But I dare say if you truly want 5x results, you'll make it possible, even if it means out of office hours. You'll see what I mean in just a second. But this is what's going to help you really access that instant state of flow the next day. So here's what most people do not understand, at least anybody that I've spoken with doesn't understand this, and this is why we have crazy morning rituals, which I won't get into right now. But this is why we have crazy morning rituals, is because we don't understand the neurobiology of the similarity between the sleep state and the flow state. Flow state is where we have that deep focus, where creativity just flows over top of us, where problem solving from even the most dynamic, hardest problems that we have been struggling with become, like the answers become crystal clear. That's flow state. And the neurochemical situation between your brain in a sleep state and a flow state is very similar. So if we can harness that, we can harness the flow state much easier, where we can go from I just woke up and I dropped into flow state almost effortlessly. And that's what step number 2 is. So the problem is that most of us destroy this wake to flow process because we do a couple things that we just have no clue is destroying our optimization for what we want to get done for the day. Things like checking our phone the minute we wake up totally destroys our ability to just drop into flow. Being reactive to problems like seeing an email and responding to it versus following that simple checklist we created already. Doing long morning peak performance routines, which are good. Like the things that we do in those are really good, but they're best for recovery. They're not best for creating flow. They're best for recovery for flow. The science proves it out. I know I get a lot of hate for this, but truly your ice bath is done at a better time than 6 a.m. It's true. It's just neuroscience. So this sleep to flow state means that if you can at all go from wake to work, do that. I know a lot of people are like, my office won't allow me to work outside of the office. And then that's fine. I get that. Sometimes there's absolute restrictions that keep you from being able to do this. And I coach my clients in that situation of how to make the best of this. And they still get really phenomenal results. But I'm just telling you, if there is any way that you can go from waking to working in a very short period of time, you want to do it because you can harness the flow state super easy if you do that. Here are the steps you'd want to do. You're going to alter it a little bit if you have to be in the office, but I'm going to assume that you have the ability to get up a little bit earlier and do some work from home before you have to head to the office, or you can say, I'm going to work the first half of my day at home. So I'm going to assume that for the work or the wake to work scenario first. So what you're going to want to do first is make sure you've set up a couple things in this last few minutes of that 15-minute shutdown that I told you about before. So in those last couple minutes, you're going to want to make sure that you have caffeine set up. So if you're like me, you're going to want a little caffeine. And actually, a little bit of caffeine upon waking is super helpful for flow. Second of all, you're going to want to make sure that your workspace is set up. And what I mean by that is I personally, because I do work from home and work at my clients' homes, but when my office is here, right? So every night I shut down my office space and make sure that anything, any tools, any documents, any physical materials that I need for my first priority in the morning are right here. And nothing else, because we don't want to be distracted. So my daily planner is sitting here. If I'm going to be creating something that I need to be doing in, like I'm projecting over the next quarter or what have you, and brainstorming, I'm going to have my, highlighters and my markers and my Post-it notes and all those things that are tools that help me plot out the next 30 days. If I'm writing a presentation, then I'm going to have all the tools that I need for that presentation right there, but nothing else. So I personally open up a few tabs. I have the tabs for my focus music, which we can go into later in one of our next upcoming steps. Then I will also have my documents open that I need for the next day, but nothing else. And anything else that is absolutely needed is going to be a tab on my computer open, and then I'm going to shut my computer. And then when I bring it to wake mode, the only thing that is open the minute I open my computer, right after opening my eyes, are those tabs that are the resources I need to complete the priority that I have. And nothing else is in my workspace, just those things. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter whether you're doing this work from home or you're doing this work from the office an hour and a half after you woke up, you can set up your day that way. But if you're doing it from home, you're also going to want to have, like I said, your caffeine. You're going to want to have maybe your clothes set up. Like, I don't want to sit freezing with the AC blasting in little pajamas. So I have a sweatshirt and some fuzzy socks because I will freeze to death. So those are the things that I have set up. Like my clothes are set out, my caffeine is set up, and my workspace is created. Those are things you want to do. So just think of it this way. If you can do the wake to work scenario at home, anything that would keep you from smoothly moving from I woke up because my alarm went off, my feet hit the floor, and then I was able to immediately move to work. Whatever would keep you from that smooth transition, set up now, tonight. Just have it all set up so that you can wake up and then literally just move into that workspace. Like literally, I am still in a half sleep state by the time I open up my computer and I start working. And then suddenly, I can't believe it's time for me to go get in the shower and get ready for my first client, because I've set this smooth transition up and I've got so much done in that first 90 minutes of the day that I know that I've accomplished more than most people have accomplished in at least a half day, if not a whole day. What's super key in this is that no matter what, you don't let distractions come into place. So there's no checking my phone, there's no checking my socials, there's none of that. We just are literally going from the work I set up the night before into action on the work I set up the night before. If you can do this wake to work ritual, it is going to make everything about every project you have, every obstacle you have, every overwhelm you have so much more simple. And that's because you're actually starting work before cortisol has the ability to flood your system, before the overwhelm that keeps you paralyzed has any chance to F up your day. Instead, you're going to slide naturally into focus. And the problem solving for even your biggest obstacles is literally just going to flood over you. It's amazing. If you've not had the flow state yet, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to want to learn about flow state, because it is the thing that allows you to solve your greatest problems. And doing this wake to work is certainly going to help you get into that state much easier. Once my clients put these 2 steps into place, they start to accomplish more in the first 90 minutes of their day than they usually did in an entire week. It is that powerful. So my challenge to you is to try this ritual tonight and then do step 2 tomorrow in the morning, whether that be in your home because you have that freedom, or whether you're attempting to do it as your first thing when you hit the office tomorrow. It's just going to be a little bit blunted flow state because you have that distance between when you woke up and when you were able to work. But setting yourself up this way will allow you an easy transition regardless of whether you're able to do it the first 90 seconds or the first 90 minutes of your day. So I'm curious, what is your number 1 priority tomorrow? How are you going to set that up? Go ahead and write that down in the comments if you want to share it for a little bit of accountability. But if you do want to dive even deeper into some clinically proven ways to end the overwhelm and distraction that has been thwarting your first 2 quarters of the year so that you can end this year with all your goals accomplished, go ahead and check out the free on-demand, you can watch it anytime you want, workshop that I have available on clinically proven ways to end distraction so that you can accomplish whatever is in front of you.